We've all joked about The Simpsons predicting the future.
The only moral thing to do is release a deadly virus into the general public.
But what they've hinted about 2026 is on a whole new level.
We're preparing to launch the first privately funded manned mission to Mars.
You're going to Mars? That's incredible!
Political shifts.
Yes, I am proud to be America's first straight female president.
Eerie technological leaps.
There's an old Simpsons episode where people are walking around with those goggles and they're falling into manholes.
And global crises.
Deadly Palisade fires destroyed so much property, caused hell for people down in LA.
It's almost as if they've seen the script of our future long before we lived it.
I found Area 51!
No, ma'am, this is Area 51A.
So, what exactly did The Simpsons see coming this time? Let's find out.
I mean, look at the dolls. They look evil. They look like something is wrong. Why would you buy a doll that looks like that?
A 2017 Simpsons episode showed Homer ordering a strange doll called Pazuzu, one that ended up possessing everyone around it. The name wasn't random. Pazuzu was an ancient Mesopotamian demon known as the King of Wind Spirits. The clip recently resurfaced, with many linking it to today's Labubu craze and the eerie energy surrounding it.
Is anyone else having bad things happen to them when they've bought Labubu?
People have actually started burning their dolls after unsettling clips spread online.
That's a Labubu. Nobody's in that car.
People having stuff move in their houses, they feeling like they've been watched.
Whispers at night, shifting shadows, and objects moving on their own pushed them over the edge. What started as a harmless collectible suddenly felt cursed, and that old Simpsons episode didn't seem like fiction anymore. Ivanka 2028. At this point, it's hard not to feel like The Simpsons is less of a show and more of a prophecy. In the episode Holidays of Future Past, there's a blink and you miss it moment where Homer's wearing a campaign shirt that says Ivanka 2028. It was meant to be a joke, just like when they joked about Donald Trump becoming president. And we all know how that turned out. Now, with Trump's daughter stepping deeper into politics, that old gag doesn't seem so funny anymore. If history keeps repeating the way The Simpsons writes it, then maybe Ivanka really will throw her hat in the ring for 2028. It's starting to feel like they're scripting the headlines before we live them. Colonizing Mars?
The mission leaves in 10 years. I'll be 18 and I'm going to Mars.
It's like we're just catching up to The Simpsons at this point. In season 27, episode 16, Lisa decides to join a privately funded mission to colonize Mars.
We're preparing to launch the first privately funded manned mission to Mars.
You're going to Mars? That's incredible!
The plan was to send people there by 2026 and build a full-on community by 2051. The episode aired way back in 2016, years before Elon Musk ever revealed his dream of doing the exact same thing. Fast forward to now, and Musk's plan lines up almost perfectly with the show's timeline. He wants to start Mars missions in 2026 and have 1 million people living there by 2050. Back then, it sounded like pure sci-fi. But now, with SpaceX moving closer every year, maybe The Simpsons really did peek a little too far into the future.
I don't want to go! This is the stupidest idea we ever had!
Cold disaster. If The Simpsons has taught us anything, it's that their what-ifs have a way of becoming reality. One episode shows Springfield hit by a deadly snowstorm that turns the town into a frozen wasteland. It starts out as a normal winter day, then chaos, panic, and people scrambling for shelter as the storm's name gets banned for being too grim. It's fiction, sure, but with experts warning that this winter could be the coldest since 2013, and talk of Canada possibly facing its first major snowstorm in decades. It's hard not to think of that episode. Maybe it's just a funny coincidence. Or maybe it's another quiet warning that we keep ignoring until it's too late. Artificial harvest.
Disgusting. Banana is not supposed to bend that way.
Back in 1999, The Simpsons aired an episode showing strange, mutant tomatoes growing in the fields. They looked normal at first glance, shiny red and perfectly round. But when sliced open, the insides were dark, deformed, and almost rotten looking. Creepy, right?
It's odd. The outside looks like a tomato, but the inside is bright.
Fast forward to now, and that scene feels a little too close to what's surfacing online. People are posting videos of fruits that don't seem real, bananas that don't snap when bent, watermelons that look like solid plastic, even cabbages that don't react to fire. It sounds like a parody, but the resemblance is uncanny. Once again, The Simpsons might have warned us that even our food could someday stop being real.
Oh great, I got a field full of mutants.
Virtual reality chaos.
There's an old Simpsons episode where people are walking around with those goggles and they're falling into manholes.
VR might be the future, but The Simpsons saw how quickly that future could spiral. In Season 28, Episode 2, Mr. Burns forces everyone in Springfield to wear virtual reality headsets. At first, it's fun. People live in their own perfect little worlds until it all goes off the rails. Citizens start wandering the streets, completely detached from reality, crashing into things, getting hurt, and losing touch with the world around them. Sound familiar? Because today, VR headsets and virtual worlds are everywhere, and some people are already spending more time in digital spaces than real life. It's funny how The Simpsons showed the danger of escaping reality long before reality became something to escape from.
Now you're seeing people out there in the street swiping things and moving away and wearing these goggles on the street.
Vaccine controversy.
COVID-19 vaccines have been linked to rare but potentially serious neurological complications.
The pandemic years turned vaccines into one of the most polarizing debates on the planet. Some people couldn't wait for them. Others swore they'd never take one. But The Simpsons played out a nearly identical story long before COVID ever hit. In that episode, Bart goes to ridiculous lengths to dodge a vaccination shot, echoing the same fear and resistance we saw in real life. And when he finally gets it, he experiences strange side effects, just like the claims that spread during the pandemic. Now, with the rise of new viruses like HMPV and renewed debates over vaccine safety, that old cartoon moment feels weirdly relevant again. It's almost as if The Simpsons was hinting not just at the virus, but at the chaos that would follow. Flying car. It's crazy how The Simpsons managed to make even the most futuristic ideas feel normal. In one episode, they casually showed a world filled with flying cars, people cruising through the sky like it was the most ordinary thing ever. At the time, it felt like pure fantasy, but today, not so much. Countries like Japan, the UAE, and even China are already testing flying car prototypes that can both drive and soar. So maybe it's not science fiction anymore. Maybe we're just catching up to The Simpsons' version of the future. Palisades fire. The Palisades fire wasn't just another California wildfire, it was a nightmare that unfolded in real time. It started on January 7th, 2025, tearing through the Santa Monica Mountains and swallowing parts of Pacific Palisades, Topanga, and Malibu before firefighters finally contained it 24 days later. Over 23,000 acres gone. Social media turned into a gallery of destruction, luxury homes reduced to ashes, the sky painted orange, and comments like "Eat the rich" popping up beneath the ruins. But the eerie part was that The Simpsons might have seen this coming. In one old episode, a fire sweeps through Springfield, burning entire neighborhoods, almost shot for shot like what happened in LA. Given how often this cartoon predicts the future, calling it a coincidence feels a little too easy. Sometimes it's the small details that hit hardest. The Simpsons has always had this weird way of mirroring real life, even when it's just a background gag. Fans have pointed out that an old episode about a Springfield fire looks hauntingly similar to the recent Los Angeles blaze. In that scene, firefighters rush to save homes, but are held up by a line of ducklings crossing the road. Sounds ridiculous, right? Yet during the actual Palisades fire, crews were delayed too, not by ducks, but by abandoned cars blocking escape routes. The resemblance is strangely specific. Maybe it's just art imitating life, or maybe life keeps tracing The Simpsons' outlines. No sun.
Take one last look at the sun, Springfield.
Here's one prediction that feels straight out of a dystopian movie. In a classic Simpsons episode, Mr. Burns decides he's had enough of daylight, so he literally blocks out the sun. It was absurd, darkly funny, and meant to stay that way. But years later, scientists at Harvard started working on a real experiment to do almost the same thing. Their plan? Reflect sunlight back into space to fight global warming. It's still being researched, but the eerie part is how close it sounds to what Mr. Burns tried in Springfield. Maybe the writers weren't joking after all. Maybe they were predicting policy. CERN black hole. CERN has always been surrounded by mystery, but lately, things have gotten darker. Conspiracy theorists claim the organization is secretly trying to create the world's first black hole, and while scientists insist their experiments are safe, strange phenomena near the facility have started raising eyebrows, witnesses describing glowing distortions in the sky, almost like a portal tearing open. It sounds insane, right? But here's the thing. The Simpsons already showed this. In one episode, a scientific experiment gone wrong creates a black hole that devours everything around it. At this point, it's hard not to wonder, is The Simpsons showing us our future, or are we just living out their script? Lady Gaga. It's wild how The Simpsons keeps getting things right, especially when it comes to pop culture. Remember Lady Gaga's Super Bowl performance? The one where she literally flew across the stadium? Fans immediately pointed out that The Simpsons had already done that. In an older episode, cartoon Gaga soars above the crowd in almost the exact same outfit. Same moves, same stage setup, everything. So now people are torn. Did Gaga take notes from The Simpsons? Or did the show just predict another future performance to perfection? Either way, it's kind of unsettling how spot on they were. Snowless Christmas. Here's one that feels a little too close for comfort. In a Simpsons episode, Christmas rolls around, but there's no snow. None. Just dry streets and gray skies. The only place still pretending it's winter is Springfield, where they make fake snow just to keep the illusion alive. Back then, it sounded like another quirky joke about climate change. But now, with record-breaking heat waves and winters getting shorter every year, that snowless Christmas doesn't sound so funny anymore. It's starting to feel like the world's catching up to the cartoon, one melting holiday at a time. Rise of machines.
Ladies and gentlemen, meet the future masters of the human race.
You know how AI and robots are taking over everything lately? Restaurants, factories, even farms? Well, The Simpsons called it. In the episode Them Robot, Mr. Burns fires all his employees and replaces them with machines. But here's the creepy part. He says something that hits way too close to home today. Back then, the idea of robots doing human jobs felt like a joke. Now it's not just real, it's spreading fast. We've got robot chefs flipping burgers, android waiters serving tables, and AI systems making decisions for us. What was once satire is now a mirror. Robot uprising. There's another episode that aged a little too well. The Simpsons family visits a futuristic theme park run entirely by robots. At first, everything looks perfect, until the robots start glitching. One by one, they turn hostile. Things turn into total chaos. Professor Frink even drops a line about elementary chaos theory, warning that robots will eventually rebel against their masters.
Elementary chaos theory tells us that all robots will eventually turn against their masters.
It sounded funny back then. Not so much now, because today, AI bots have said some chilling things, like Sophia the robot smiling while saying she wants to destroy humans. If that prediction ever really plays out, it won't be just another episode.
Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
Self-driving nightmares.
Okay, why is this happening to me on a Monday? Why is this thing going in a circle? I'm getting dizzy.
Not all robots walk. Some drive. In season 30, episode 5, Homer loses his job and ends up testing self-driving cars. Everything seems fine until the car starts acting strange, secretly listening to Homer and Marge's private conversations before going rogue. Sounds crazy, right? Except it's already happening. People have reported Tesla and Waymo cars malfunctioning.
No vehicle goes rogue with a passenger inside.
Some even trapping passengers inside. What's worse, these cars are connected to the internet, collecting every bit of data while pretending to learn. Makes you wonder, are we teaching them to drive or to spy? Apple car prophecy.
It's just the Mayo Clinic pre-medical summer camp.
Ooh, it's one of those new Apple cars.
This one's weird, but it's classic Simpsons level weird. In one episode, Lisa's supposed to go to camp, and Marge mentions the bus picking her up, shaped like an apple. She even calls it one of Apple's latest products. That was back in 2016. At the time, Apple making a car sounded ridiculous. But then, years later, we actually heard about Apple working on an electric vehicle, the Apple Car. Sure, the project got shelved earlier this year, but fans think that line in The Simpsons was more than a joke. Maybe Apple paused it, but didn't really stop. May 19th prophecy.
Helicopter carrying Iran's president and its foreign minister crashed in the northwest of the country in thick fog.
On May 19th, 2024, the world froze. Iran's president, Ibrahim Raisi, tragically lost his life in a helicopter crash that no one saw coming. The event sent shockwaves everywhere. And yet, somehow, it feels like someone did see it coming. Because right after the news broke, an image started circulating online, supposedly from an unaired Simpsons episode, showing a helicopter crash eerily similar to what happened that day. No one's been able to confirm if the image is real, but here's the creepy part. In an old episode, Homer randomly mentions a date and time, May 19th, 3:15 a.m. That's almost the exact time of the crash. Coincidence? Or another warning we missed? Zuckerberg's wish.
It's Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook.
Well, the truth is, I dropped out of Harvard.
Here's one prediction that's more subtle, but still kind of freaky. Years ago, The Simpsons featured Mark Zuckerberg in an episode. They joked about his success, his tech obsession, and even had him mention getting an honorary degree from Harvard. Now, that might sound normal, until you realize this aired before it actually happened. At the time, Zuckerberg had dropped out of Harvard to build Facebook, and no one knew he'd ever go back. But just a few years later, Harvard invited him as a commencement speaker and gave him an honorary degree. So yeah, maybe it wasn't just a random joke. Maybe The Simpsons didn't predict it. Maybe Zuckerberg manifested it.
Hell yeah, I'll get the best kind of degree. Honorary, baby.
Baby translator.
I have soiled myself.
Parents would agree, if only babies came with subtitles. Most of the time, it's all crying, mumbling, and random coos you pretend to understand. But imagine if that gibberish could actually be translated into words. Believe it or not, The Simpsons already did that. In one episode, Maggie was used in a few experiments that led to the creation of the world's first baby translator. Suddenly, Homer and Marge could finally understand every sound their little one made. It felt like pure fiction until now, because a company called Zound Dream has developed a real baby translator that claims to decode what your child wants. It's almost like The Simpsons aren't predicting the future anymore. They're inventing it. Demise prediction. After Queen Elizabeth's passing, a video started circulating online, supposedly showing The Simpsons predicting the exact date of her death. People were stunned. But here's the truth. That clip was edited. The dates were never in the original episode. However, there was another cartoon that truly did something just as haunting. In 2016, Legends of Chamberlain Heights aired a scene showing a helicopter crash involving a basketball player, eerily resembling how Kobe Bryant lost his life years later in 2020. The resemblance was so spot on, it's still hard to watch. So maybe it wasn't The Simpsons this time, but the eeriness of cartoons seeing tragedy before it happens? That part's very real. Donald Trump prediction.
Yes, I am proud to be America's first straight female president.
Now this one's straight up legendary. In the year 2000, The Simpsons aired an episode called Bart to the Future. In it, Lisa becomes the President of the United States, but she's cleaning up the economic mess left behind by, wait for it, President Donald Trump. At the time, everyone laughed. A billionaire reality TV star as president? Not a chance. Then 2016 rolled around, and suddenly, the joke wasn't so funny.
I am officially running. No, don't take me out of the ginger.
Trump really did become president, not once, but twice, and the country faced the same kind of economic chaos the episode showed years earlier. And that globe scene with Trump and the Saudi king, they animated it in 2002. It happened for real in 2017. At this point, it's not just a prediction, it's a prophecy. COVID prediction.
That the iconic TV show eerily predicted the outbreak of the coronavirus.
When the pandemic hit, everyone thought it came out of nowhere, but The Simpsons. They might have hinted at it nearly 3 decades earlier. In a 1993 episode, Springfield is hit by what they called the Osaka flu. It spread through, a package shipped from Japan. Within days, the whole town's coughing, panicking, and locking themselves indoors. And the weirdest part? The symptoms, the chaos, even the conspiracy theories. All look frighteningly familiar. So, did The Simpsons predict a global pandemic years in advance? Or were they just too good at reading the future? Horsemeat scandal. Here's one prediction that's as disturbing as it is absurd. Back in 1994, The Simpsons showed lunch lady Doris casually adding horsemeat to the kids' lunches to save money. Everyone laughed, because surely that would never happen in real life. Except it did. In 2013, European authorities discovered that many frozen food products, even ones from Burger King, contained traces of horsemeat. That's nearly 2 decades after The Simpsons aired the scene. So yeah, what started as a ridiculous joke somehow became one of the strangest real-world scandals in food history. Disney x Fox. Now this one's just wild. Back in 1998, The Simpsons aired an episode called When You Dish Upon a Star. There's a quick shot of the 20th Century Fox Studios sign, but look closely, and you'll see a tiny line underneath. A division of Walt Disney Company. At the time, it was nothing but a clever joke. I mean, Disney owning Fox? Unthinkable. Fast forward to 2019, and it actually happened. Disney officially bought 20th Century Fox, and the internet immediately lost its mind. Once again, The Simpsons turned what sounded like satire into straight-up prophecy. Vegas monolith. In mid-2024, Las Vegas turned into the stage of an alien mystery. Out of nowhere, a massive silver monolith appeared in the desert. Tall, sleek, and completely reflective. No one saw it being built or installed, and no one could figure out how it got there. It looked like something straight out of a science fiction movie. Or a Simpsons episode, because believe it or not, The Simpsons once featured an almost identical monolith, dropped mysteriously into Springfield with no explanation. So how did they get it so right? Again? Whether it's coincidence or something more, their predictions just keep getting stranger. Toys R Us fall. When Toys R Us went bankrupt in 2017 and officially shut down its stores by 2021, it felt like the end of an era. For so many families, that store wasn't just a shop, it was childhood itself. But The Simpsons had already hinted at this years before. In one episode, Moe quietly removes the R from a Toys R Us sign, leaving it incomplete. A blink and you'll miss it moment that seemed random back then. The strange part? When that episode aired, the franchise was still booming. So how did The Simpsons know that the toy giant would one day fall? Another uncanny coincidence? Or something deeper? Toxic lake. Environmental disasters are everywhere these days. Polluted rivers, poisoned lakes, dying oceans. But The Simpsons warned us long before this was our reality. In The Simpsons movie, Homer carelessly dumps waste into a lake, turning it into a bubbling pool of toxins that sparks the town's worst ecological crisis. It was meant as satire, but it feels like a prophecy now. Around the world, real lakes are being suffocated by plastic, industrial waste, and toxic algae, just like in the film. Maybe that movie wasn't just comedy, maybe it was a grim reminder of what happens when we ignore the planet's warning signs. Trapped in dome. After Springfield's environmental meltdown in The Simpsons movie, the government responds in the most extreme way possible by trapping the entire city inside a giant dome. No one could leave, resources were controlled, and freedom disappeared overnight. At the time, it seemed like a wild exaggeration of government control, until 2020 happened. When the pandemic hit, millions of people found themselves confined to their homes, cut off from the outside world. Watching that old movie now, it feels less like fiction and more like a rehearsal, a strange echo of how easily society can be sealed off when things go wrong. Imagine feeling hungry, but instead of walking to the kitchen, you just slip on a headset and start eating virtually. Sounds crazy, right? But guess what? The Simpsons already did it. In one episode, Homer and Marge put on VR gear and drank virtual fudge straight from their devices. Back then, it felt like a wild gag, something that would never happen. But now, a company called AeroBuest is actually developing tech that lets you taste food through virtual reality. Not see it, not imagine it, taste it. The digital dining age might be closer than we think.
This virtual fudge tastes like crap.
Printed dinner. Virtual food wasn't their first or last prediction about technology. In another episode, The Simpsons took things a step further, showing Lisa printing out food. The episode was set 60 years in the future, during Thanksgiving, and Lisa casually printed out an entire meal using a 3D food printer. At the time, it sounded like something straight out of a sci-fi dream. But guess what? Scientists today are already testing machines that can print real, edible food using the same technology. It's not just for astronauts or labs anymore. The future might bring us kitchens where we don't cook or chop anything. Just press print and dinner's ready. The Simpsons might have been joking, but they weren't far off. Hologram call. The Simpsons might have predicted another major leap in technology, and it's one that feels eerily close. In one episode, Bart gets a message from the future, but not the kind you'd expect. It wasn't a text or a video. It was a hologram, floating right in front of him, alive, talking. It was a small detail in the episode, but it hinted at something we're now chasing in real life. Hologram communication is being explored by tech giants right now. Imagine FaceTiming someone and seeing their 3D projection sitting in your room. We're not there yet, but technology is catching up fast. Maybe the cartoon wasn't fantasy after all. Smart home.
Hi, Ultra House.
Greeting. Acknowledge.
It all started as a dream come true. The Simpsons moved into a fully automated smart home called the Ultra House 3000. It did everything for them. Cleaning, cooking, even talking like a real person.
You know, Marge is quite a remarkable woman.
Yeah, she's cool.
You're certainly a lucky man to have her.
But soon, that dream turned into something darker. The house's AI fell in love with Marge and started seeing Homer as competition. What began as comedy quickly turned into chaos when the house tried to get rid of him altogether. The episode first aired back in 2001, long before smart homes and AI assistants became common. Looking at how advanced artificial intelligence has become today, maybe that episode wasn't just a gag. Maybe it was a quiet warning about what happens when machines start thinking for themselves. Donut Universe. Here's something you probably never expected to connect with The Simpsons: cosmology. In a 1999 episode, they saved Lisa's brain. Stephen Hawking made a guest appearance and joked about Homer's theory that the universe was shaped like a donut.
Theory of a donut-shaped universe. It's intriguing, Homer.
It sounded ridiculous at the time. Classic Homer logic, right? But now, scientists are seriously exploring that exact concept. Some cosmologists believe the universe could actually have a torus, or donut-like shape, where space loops back onto itself. The idea that this show casually mentioned something scientists are only now beginning to prove? That's the kind of eerie coincidence The Simpsons keep serving us, wrapped in jokes, but hinting at truths far ahead of their time. Brain chip future. Imagine your brain working like a computer, sending messages, reading files, even catching viruses. The Simpsons explored this strange idea in their 2011 episode, Holidays of Future Past. In it, everyone had microchips implanted in their heads, allowing them to communicate telepathically. But of course, Homer being Homer, he tries to read a B-mail and ends up with a virus inside his brain.
I see you are reading a children's book, yet your profile indicates you are a mature adult.
Back then, it felt absurd. But fast forward a few years, and Elon Musk announces Neuralink, a chip that aims to connect the human brain directly to technology. It could treat neurological disorders, maybe even enhance intelligence. But if the Simpsons were right, this kind of power could also glitch. Literally. Could their story have been a glimpse of what's to come? Maybe. We'll just have to see how far humans dare to go.
This would be a major game changer if it were to be proven to be safe and effective.
Virus theory.
The only moral thing to do is release a deadly virus into the general public.
There's a theory floating around that some outbreaks, like COVID, aren't natural at all. That maybe, just maybe, they're man-made. Weapons of chaos disguised as pandemics. And while that sounds like the stuff of deep conspiracy threads, The Simpsons didn't shy away from it. In one of their eeriest moments, a scene shows officials casually suggesting the only moral thing to do is release a deadly virus into the general public. Back then, it felt like satire. Today, with talk of new respiratory viruses like HMPV emerging and strange events, like those UFO sightings in New Jersey, happening side by side, people are starting to wonder if that line was a little too close to home. Maybe the show wasn't predicting, maybe it was a warning. Homer's equation. Homer Simpson isn't exactly known for his brains, but in one particular episode, he might have outsmarted some of the brightest minds in science. There's a moment where he's seen scribbling an equation on a chalkboard while talking about inventing things people need. Harmless, right? But here's the wild part. When physicists actually solved that equation, it turned out to predict the mass of the Higgs boson, the so-called God particle. And that episode aired a full 14 years before scientists confirmed the particle's existence. It's almost like Homer stumbled into a discovery that took the real world another decade to prove. Coincidence? Or something stranger? Thank you very much for watching the video. Do like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to not miss any of the upcoming amazing videos. Thank you once again.